Yeah, there we go. All right. So 21st century training day 2. Go ahead, Janie.
Welcome to day 2. And thank you for getting on today. And Erica, thank you guys for having me. I hope that today will be beneficial to you all. I want to introduce myself. I'm Janie Brown, and I'm with Gaston City Schools, and I have served in some capacity for after-school programming since I was 15, and I'm much older than that now. So I'm going to be generous and say 20 years, and that will guard my age a little bit. So I've been at it for a minute, and I say that to say I know just about every seat, from an assistant, an aide, a teacher, a lead teacher, a site coordinator, and a program director. So I understand that we all wear many hats, and I know how it is sometimes a challenge to make every lesson count. And today, that's what I want to do for you, is to provide some resources and some roadmaps to help you navigate making every lesson count. And that's not just for the students, but also for you and for your staff, because there are things that we can do to make sure that we're meeting all the requirements and also providing high quality lessons for our students. So let's go ahead and get started. You can go ahead and click to the next slide. I always start with a funny. It's who I am. So I've seen this meme many, many times, and I'm sure this is how many of you feel today. Teachers in August, teachers in October, and here we are in December. And I would say that's about right. If I wasn't getting on the Zoom early this morning, I would look like the third picture if it was a 3 o'clock or 3:30 Zoom meeting. So I thank you for having a morning meeting, Erica, so that I can resemble August semi. Okay. So let's let the fun begin this morning. And I really hope that it's beneficial. Just hang in there. I know everyone is trying to connect the dots and get things rolling out for cohort 16, but we can do it. And together we can make it a lot easier, and we can provide a lot of resources for one another. So past the funny, and let's get to the meat of what we're going to talk about today. All right, so make every lesson count. How can we do that? What does that mean? Well, there are 4 components that we're going to talk about throughout the presentation. One is have a plan. We all know what that means. You got to have a game plan going in. And I'm going to talk about how you can have that plan. Prepare quality lesson plans. It's just as easy to have good quality lessons as it is to have, no plan or no lesson. And so if you put in the work, I think that it will make it easier for you in the long run if we put the work in on the front end. We're going to talk about student engagement, and then compliance monitoring documentation, how you can make your lesson planning format easier for you so that you already have what you need when it comes to your compliance monitoring. So let's go ahead and jump on into the first step, which is your planning. So I did 6 tips for successful planning. And that first means map it out. Map it out. And I have slides that we're going to look at after I talk about each of these points so that you can see what I mean by mapping it out. So how many of you are thinking, what do I do now? I've got cohort 16, and now what am I supposed to do? How do I make sure that I'm getting everything in that I'm supposed to be getting in? And how am I providing students with the resources and the lessons that they need? Well, you have to have a map. And a map is a good calendar, and it's a good pacing guide as to what you're trying to accomplish. And I'm going to show you some of those things in just a minute. It's important that you organize. It's hard to do something if you don't have everything in order. So put the work in on the front end, and you will be rewarded at the end, because you won't be trying to collect data or get things into Cognia or make sure your easy reports is right if we jump on those things in the beginning. Develop a calendar. I suggest that you do it for the year. You can add things, but I'm going to show you a method that I think is very beneficial and I think will help you guys to make sure that you're in compliance. I've done it well and I've done it not well. You know, when you start out, you just trying to make it. But as you continue on in after school programming, you start to better understand what it is that you need to do to make sure that things are lining up, and having a good calendar is going to help you do that. Align your planning guide and your calendar with your quarterly compliance. Those activities that you have to have in your lessons and you have to upload into Cognia for your quarterly reports, map it out for the year, and then no one is going to miss it. Add your required lessons into Easy Report. And I don't mean input the lesson plan, but I do mean have it visible in your Easy Reports, because that is just another way to dot your I and cross your T. You know, are you doing financial literacy? Yeah. And it's in your Easy Reports. You already have where your students have attended those sessions, and it will generate the information that you need. Yes, it does take time in the beginning to make sure that you're inputting those things and that you're getting it in. But the more accurate that is, the less work you're having to do on the back end. Erica, you agree? Yes? No? Yeah, it will make a difference, okay? And then involve all stakeholders in the planning process. And that means your program director, that's your site coordinators, your teachers, your school principals, your community organizations. There are so many people that will come in and meet the needs for you, and they will give you the lessons. And then you can have those things to show not only that you're partnering with your community, but that you are providing resources that are helping students and families. So involve all your stakeholders in the meeting. That doesn't mean they have to come to the table and sit down with you, but it does mean that you are reaching out to, let's say, quality of life or your 4-H extension, and you're getting them on the calendar, and you're doing it early, because those agencies, they're spread thin like a lot of us. But if you reach out early and get on their schedule soon, if you haven't done that, I would suggest doing it now. If you have a summer program, I would suggest doing it now, reaching out to those people and getting ahead of everyone else so that you get them lined up on your calendar and on your agenda, because it just makes it easier and it alleviates some of those lesson plans for you and your staff. Utilize your staff members in the areas that they shine in. It makes them enjoy the day more, and they're more invested in what they're teaching. So the planning part, I want us to kind of look at some of the things that we do to make it a little easier. I think that's the next slide. Erica, I think it's a calendar. It might be a little fuzzy, but all right. So this is a calendar and this is a sample, but I thought, especially if you're a new cohort, that this would be beneficial for you to kind of see what we do and how we do it. So myself and my team, we sit down, and I've done this for the school year. So we have the month mapped out, and STEM lessons 3 days a week, right? So I include that on the calendar for all of our sites. We have 9 sites. So if you have one site or 9 sites, well, we have 11 after schools, but several 21st century. So we do this across the board. We have a calendar for every site, and then they make it their own. But some things cannot come off of the calendar. And so that is going to be the STEM lessons. That is going to be the compliance, your Cognia. So if you see in red here on the 3rd, I go ahead and list the date for the cultural diversity lesson. And so every site is teaching that across the board on that date. If you look at 7, financial literacy, every site is teaching their financial literacy lesson on the 7th. The 15th, our career lesson, every site. The 28th, drug lesson, every site. The 30th, a bullying lesson, every site. Will that lesson look different? Yes, because you are providing services in different types of schools, and every lesson may not be the best lesson. And you have elementary and middle school and high school, but no matter what site, they are doing the lessons on that day. And that helps me to know that they have completed the quarterly lesson, that Easy Reports is correct, that the dates are matching, and we're providing that service on the date that we said that we were going to provide it on. And you're doing it in advance so that you don't have to worry about, did I do my quarter 1 cultural diversity lesson? Have I done my quarter 2 lesson? If you map it on the calendar, I think it's the best way to make sure that everyone is doing it. We put our STEM on there as well. The sites will go in and individualize that, but I put it on the calendar so that they know that they are doing it on those designated days, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then any outside programming that we have coming in, I also list on this calendar. So we have dynamic educators coming in, and we do themes at our schools and our after school programs. And so we have an animal show coming in on the 3rd. We have a sports camp coming in on the 4th. And I list any of those outside agencies that are coming in on the master calendar as well. Any questions about that? Does anyone want to ask a question before I move to the next thing? I think that's the first step in planning before you begin your lesson planning. Or anything you want to add, Erica? Okay. You can go ahead and go to the next one, and we won't stay on that one long. That's just a December calendar, and you can see again where I'm a color code, I color code. So I have environmental, we have nutrition, we have our technology lessons, we have our STEM, and then we have
Truman Pearson Institute this year.
we have our outside agencies. So we have, again, we have shows coming in, and we have a cultural arts center coming in, and that way it's laid out for the month. You can go ahead and click to the next one, Erica. All right, this is a cheat sheet that I made, and I will gladly pass it along to you guys if you would like it, but I mapped out quarterly lesson checklist. I give this to my site coordinators, and I let them know that these are the lessons that we are completing each month, okay? And I input that on the calendar, and then I give it to them. I do not list STEM up here because they do know that they have to do STEM 3 days a week, and I put that on the calendar. But if I'm looking at my compliance monitoring, what I have to put into Cognia, I'm making sure that that is getting turned in and that they know that this is the expectation. Because if people don't know, they don't know. And if you're starting out, it's best to set these parameters early so that everyone has the clear expectation, and it cuts down on confusion and wondering, well, when do I have to do this and when do I have to do that? Set the bar high, but make it as easy as you can for your people, right? Because it's a hard job. It's a hard job, but you can sometimes help to make it a little easier. So I provide this. And then, of course, I just put some additional things on the bottom, which is that we want to make sure we have our STEM lessons and that they're reflected in our calendar, which we do that. I push the master calendar out to the site coordinators, and then the site coordinators fill in their specifics that are not on the calendar because it is different to each site. All right. Also, we have where you need to make sure you're getting your quarterly lessons for enrichment, art, drama, etc., and they provide those. And then service learning projects and activities must be integrated regularly into the after-school program, and you want your calendar to reflect that as well. And yes, I will share this. I will get a Google Drive together for you guys, and I will send it to Erica, and she can send it out if that's okay with Annette and Erica. All right. Erica, you can go ahead and click. And this is another cheat sheet. I do this for my staff, and this is the compliance monitoring lesson plan list. Because I have learned that it's best when you are doing your lesson plans to label as if you're uploading it into Cognia. Instead of putting art or drama or physical ed or diversity or STEM, I require them to label it according to compliance. It always starts with the compliance number, so that when I'm dragging and pulling things from Google Drive into Cognia, I don't have to click on every lesson and say, oh, and then you have a million screens up and you've downloaded 1,200 lesson plans on your computer and you don't even know what's going on anymore. Okay. So that is something that I have just learned as I have been in this position, that there are some things that you can implement early that will help make it better in the long run. So I just create this checklist so they don't have to flip through the whole document every time, and they know how to label the documents that we're using for lesson plans. All right. Any questions before I run into and talk about the quality lesson plans? Any questions about any of those things? I know that I'm kind of going through it.
Erica, I'm sorry, excuse me. Erica, there's a question. It says, when will the 21st century CCLC 2223 be available in Cognia?
It's a good question.
When I know, I will let y'all know, but I
Okay,
don't know yet. It's still in the sandbox.
okay. Thank you. I'm
Thank you.
sorry, you can continue now.
Oh, yeah. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So are we good there? That was a great question. But I will suggest to everyone, and I will talk about that in a minute, things that you can go ahead and do so that you're ready for Cognia when it opens. Okay, so you already have the stuff and you're ready to input it. And it is a lot. Trust me, I know. But, and it's never going to be easy, but it can be a little easier. Okay, so hopefully I can help that here today. When you're talking about quality lesson plans, what does that look like? What is that? Well, we know that our goal in after school is to provide quality programming to students. And quality programming can look different, but it always will be driven to improve academic success for our students, to provide opportunities in enriching areas, and to increase interest in academics and provide opportunity. And that's what we want to do. And that is what happens if you're aligning it with your school day. It's very important that you are connecting your after school programming with the state standards, that you are talking with the staff, with the principal, so that you know, hey, we have a deficit in this area. Or, you know, our kindergarten students are really struggling with this. Teachers have very, I don't want to say strict, but they are limited sometimes as far as time and what they can do in addition to what is required from the State Department, what they're having to do with their curriculum and their pacing guides. And what we can do is take some of those things that they're not able to do and do it in after school to reinforce the skills. So make sure that you're always aligning what you're doing with the school day. Also with your school's needs assessment, right? And when you do your grants, you have your needs assessment. You know what area your school is lacking. So use those areas and cater to that, so that you're not planning these lessons. And then when it's time to talk about what did you do to accomplish your grant goals? How did you make sure that you were following the areas of compliance monitoring? Well, if you're doing it in line with your RFA and what you've said you're going to do, and with your grant goals and with your needs assessment, then you're going to be fine, you know, because you're doing it. Have a variety of activities. Kids get bored, and they get bored fast, especially now in the age of technology, when kids have an attention span sometimes that is very small. But what I have seen is that if you are providing something fun and meaningful, they really do get locked in. They really do. And so give them a lot of options. Let them have a little say in what you're doing. If they're really interested in something, then let's bring that in and let's provide some lessons in that. And always be intentional. As I have gotten older, I have came to the conclusion that everything can't just happen on a whim and when I feel like it. But in my younger years, that's how I wanted things to go. My way, what it feels like for me. Do I like it? Is it good for me? And you can't operate effectively with that mindset. So it's very important to be intentional. And by being intentional, to me, that is listening to the students and the families that you serve, listening to the school, and obviously listening to the State Department and the requirements in which are mandated for your grant. And if you do all of those things, you'll be fine. You can go ahead and click to the next thing. So what does that look like? You're providing quality lesson plans that align with your grant goals, that align with the standards, that are helping to improve academics in the areas of math and reading and science. Well, how can I get my students engaged? Like it or not, I'm going to say it. It starts with you. It starts with you. It always starts with the person leading the after-school programs. It starts with the person who's in charge, the site leaders, your coordinators. If you're engaged, if you are interested, if you have a good attitude, then your students tend to meet that expectation. And sometimes it is hard. Sometimes we feel like the December Barbie, as we saw in that picture, and you're like, oh, not today. I don't have it in me. But the kids matter. And it matters that we're giving them opportunity. And so create a positive climate and culture. And that starts with you. Be prepared. What does that look like? Well, it doesn't look like, oh my gosh, we're doing a STEM activity today and I'm supposed to have full and I can't find full. Is there full in that cabinet? Or do we have crayons? Or can someone go get me the glue? Encourage your staff to always have what they need and ready to go. And they can do that if they have a plan. If you plan out for the month, then they already know what they're doing and they're already getting what they need. And everything is going to be lined up. Is it going to be perfect? No, that's unrealistic. Okay. But it can be better. It can be better if you are prepared. Make sure that your lessons are geared towards some of your student interest. You might have one site that really loves golf, or they want to learn about golf. They've seen it on TV. They don't know what it is. Well, you can bring in someone to teach golf. If you have an area that students are, we're doing sports camps at our sites right now. And so we're partnering with the Y, and they're doing different sports camps at our sites for a week. And listen, when those people come in, guys, this is important because I didn't understand this always early on. They are giving you their lesson. When I have someone coming in, they send me their lessons so that physical education, check, right? Sports camp, check. And I already have the lesson, and the lesson is aligning with the standards and it's aligning with the compliance. And I let people who are coming in know this is what I need before you come in. Right? I need the lesson. I need the objectives here. and they do it. And that helps you. If your kids like music, bring in music. We have a school right now, and they're doing handbells. Cutest thing ever. I mean, I walked in and I had somebody come in on a visit, and I'm telling you, that's all you could hear was handbells, 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 handbells for 45 minutes. But it was precious. It was precious. And they like it, and they're getting exposure to a variety of different things. And that's really what it's about. Always try to remember when you're in the trenches, your purpose and your goal. I tell myself, wouldn't it be a travesty if a student was in one of our programs and they missed their goal, their passion, their life's work because we didn't give them an opportunity to experience it? So many of our kids don't have experiences outside of their own community. And so when you bring in these different resources and you provide these different lessons that are quality, you are giving a child an opportunity to say, wait, I didn't know I could be a golf player. I didn't know that I am really good in science. Maybe I do want to be an engineer, because you're bringing people in that, I always say it's important to bring people in that look like your students and that don't look like your students. Because kids need to see that there are many, many faces in the world we live in, but they also need to see their own faces so that they can say, wait, I can do that. I can do that. Our grants, we know, serve students, a lot of students in low income areas. And we have the privilege, I say privilege, of providing them with all of these resources. And so when it gets tiring and when it gets hard and you're thinking, I just don't want to, just don't think I can do it today. Planning ahead makes the days that you feel tired easier because you already know what you're doing. So map it out and get people in that can help you to be impactful. And there are a lot of different places that you can do that. And I will go into that in just a minute. I kind of got on my soapbox there. I apologize. All right. But remember your purpose and remember your goal. And then, of course, make it fun. Make learning fun for your kids and for you. I mean, I don't want to do something that's boring. And the kids don't want to do something that's boring. And every day, I know, isn't going to be a 10, right? Every day isn't going to be a volcano erupting and you know, kids building these immaculate structures. But if you're building on those things every day and letting the kids know that, hey, today we're doing brainstorming. Tomorrow we're mapping out. Wednesday, you got to be here because guess what? You're going to build. And if you're not here on Wednesday, you're going to miss the build. And so those are things that you can do to help engage your students. And I always say include your families, and I'll get into that on the next slide. But any questions on that? Y'all are a quiet group? All right. Next. Now you have them engaged, but what can you do to increase it? You have some of your kids engaged, some of them aren't. So now what? Well, family projects, project-based learning. And I'll get into that in a minute. We do those things every year, and we are not perfect, believe me. But experience is, to me, the best teacher. And so we've had a lot of experience with after-school programs, and we've done things that work really well and things that don't work really well. And it's a learning curve. And so what I hope to do today is to help alleviate some of that learning curve and our own growing pains so that you don't have to navigate that course. And these are some things that we do to help improve student engagement during the actual after-school hours. And then therefore the school day And then outside of after school hours, when you have them come to do an additional family event or something like that. So family projects and PBLs are great ways to do that. Presentations. You can create presentations. You can have your students create presentations. It's also great to share this with all of your community stakeholders, your board members, your superintendent, your mayor, because they need to know what we're doing. Invite them to come and let them see. So if your students are engaged and then you're getting their families engaged, now mom's bought into what you're doing. And now your students are going to what? Well, they're going to be more apt to be engaged because everybody's buying into it. Get your principals engaged. We always like to do some after school competitions, a little healthy competition, never hurt anybody, right? That's how I feel. I was a student athlete and I played a year of college ball, and I'm very, very competitive. My family is competitive, and any holiday turns into a competition. So that's who I am, and I project that onto after school. So we like to have healthy competitions. And that means I'm not picking a winner per se. We're not picking a winner per se, but we are encouraging the competition aspect of, hey, we're having a family showcase. Everyone's showing up to the event, and I want my side to have the best stuff. And then everybody's putting in the work. The kids are like, oh, no. Did you see theirs last year? They had a really good one, and we don't want them to beat us this year. No. So we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And so healthy competitions, showcasing and spotlighting your students. You can do that by putting a sign out when your parents come in to sign out. Spotlight student of the week, spotlight grade of the week. We'll do a spotlight helper. So students who have been really working and really engaged, they get to be a spotlight helper for the week. And then they're getting their classmates to buy into it. And sometimes you want to spotlight the student who doesn't care at all what you're doing. Like, looks at everybody that does a lesson like, really? This is what we're doing? Because when you give them that little sticker or your little star pin, it changes their level of engagement. They just normally want a chance. Hands-on activities, let them work with something. They've been sitting at a desk writing with paper and all kind of things all day long. Let them touch and feel and move and be free. You don't want kids to feel like they have to repress themselves in after school. You want them to be able to breathe lighter and be like, oh, it can be me in here, and allow them an opportunity to just be a kid and enjoy themselves. I suggest when you're doing your lessons and you're planning that you do, rotations and stations. This allows students to be engaged and then rotate to something else, and then they become re-engaged, because anything for too long isn't good for anybody. I mean, I know right now I'm pressing my luck talking because people disconnect easy when you're not engaged, and kids especially. So make sure that you're providing them some choice and that you're giving them more than one lesson to do a day. And then engage your families. If they buy in, the kids buy in, how can you do that? Family nights, invite them in after the kids have built the robot and say, hey, come on. We're showcasing our robots. If you want to come watch, there you go. You've got a family STEM event, right? Compliance. Your lesson plan to go with it, compliance. Sign-in sheets, compliance. You have all of those things that are making it easier for you, and the kids are really doing it. And the families are really doing it. So line everything up with each other, from your calendar to your lesson plans and to your presentations. You can click on the next slide. I think it's something different. But I do want to say that every year, we have multiple family events. And this is just an idea. If you have more than one site, or if you have one site, you can break it into groups. We select a theme, we have a mission, and each site works on that. Last year, we did the World Games. because why? Well, first, it's a big deal and it was coming to Birmingham. And so many of our students didn't even know. And so we set out with the year and everyone knew that was their theme. And the World Games provided lesson plans for every day of the week, okay? In every sport, in everything. It made things so much easier for us. So we did that, and each site did different things that revolved around the World Games. High school, they took the approach of sports conditioning and injuries and how athletes can stay well. And I have a quick video I'm going to show you some of the things they did with that. The elementaries, they all did different things. You know, one talked about one sport, right? And they would give, you know, stats about that and projects that they had completed, whether they built a boat or if they talked about how much speed you need to do this and to do that. And we had them set up, and we do this every year at one general location. We did the East Gaston Community Center this year because it's a new community center and it serves our students. So why not have it there? Right? It's something that your families can utilize outside of school hours. And it was a great place to showcase our students as well as the community center. Great partnership. We display those boards. No one gets a #1 trophy, but we greeted every student that came in with an Olympic medal. We greeted all the families with ribbons, and we had a STEM make and take station for our families. They walked through and looked at all of the projects, and it was a great event. But we started working on that day one, and then we showcased it at the end. So give students something to work towards, and that will help. We do it every year. This year, I mean, the year before, I think we did PBL projects. And so one site built a zoo and another site did this. So make sure that you're doing events that help your staff to get a little competitive, because they will. Because nobody wants to show up with a board that's not a good board. All right. Everybody wants to look nice at the events, and parents love it. We had over 800 people at our event in May. So people will say families don't show up, but they do. They will if you provide a lot of engagement. That's what people want. They just want to feel like they're part of it. Last and certainly not least, everyone's favorite part is the compliance monitoring piece. So when you're creating your lessons and your calendar, it's important, like I said, they align with compliance. These are some tips, and then I have a sample link in here, and we'll go through that. Collect that documentation. I say monthly, but I'm not you, and so you might say quarterly, but I like to do it monthly. And what I mean by that is the lesson plans that you need. I map out what they're doing every month. And so at the end of December, everybody's going to give me that compliance piece. Same thing for November and December. And it's all going to line up with the calendar. Collect it so that you're not waiting around for it. Create a Google folder or Google folders if you haven't already. I would suggest doing this. It helps your evaluators, it helps you, and it helps with Cognia. Long gone are the days of paper copies in the box. They're not long gone, because you do kind of need them sometimes, but you do want to make sure that you're all going to be doing Cognia, and all of that is electronic. So go ahead and do it just like you would be doing Cognia. Create Google folders quarterly, and then have them insert those activities, those lesson plans, depending on what compliance monitoring piece they are uploading. That's why I say have them put 1E. Quarter 1, 1E, And then there you go. You're ready to go. Label your lessons correctly. I already talked about that. And then of course, uploading it into Cognia. Hopefully, will you see if it lets you click on that, Erica, the lesson plan link? I don't know if I shared that, and I might have to go into my settings and share. This is just a sample, okay? And I did this because I know that you can write on your lesson plans, but I also like to do a cover page so that it has all of the information needed. And this was a learning curve for me. Cognia was new, right? So this was something that was a learning curve for me, and it might be helpful to you. So anytime they turn in a lesson, they do a cover page for that lesson. And it says the quarter, the compliance number, the site, the area, the title, the grade level, the date, and the teacher. And if you scroll down, their lesson comes behind that, okay? And then if you keep scrolling, I always have them attach some type of evidence at the end. That's a different lesson plan, but that's just y'all's model. I wanted them to see both. So this way, when I upload it in, it's one solid document. And I did learn this the hard way. That's why I'm telling you guys, because I was dragging and clicking and moving. And I was like, this has got to be a better way, you know, because in that box, you're used to paper clipping and everything is together. But the way that you have to upload into Cognia is not always friendly per se. And if you want something to be with that particular document, it has to be just that one upload. So have your staff do this when they turn it in. And that way, when the State Department is checking, they click on, they see everything that's required, what it's doing, they see the lesson plan, and they see a picture. I'm telling you, it will save you. And if you send this to your staff and your people and tell them this is what they have to do, what I do is November, we do it together, or whatever your starting is. Let's just say whenever you're starting, right? You're going to map everything out together, and then we come back together and I make sure that like a work session that they're getting it right, that they've done it correctly, and that I'm answering any questions. So second quarter, guess what? I don't have to worry about it. Okay. And it's going to make everything easier for you guys. But it takes coming together and making sure everyone understands the expectation. All right. So you can come. And the other one was just a field trip lesson plan using the State Department's thing. And of course, you can always use those as well. Is this the next one? All right. So we talked about the compliance part. That's important. You got to do it. So map it out early and have it done. And you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, did I do financial literacy? Oh, did we do this? Did we do that? It's just done. Community partners. When you're
Janie,
looking for, yes.
I'm sorry, excuse me. We have a question. It says, do we have to use the lesson plan template, or can we use the lesson plan from other sites? Erica, that's probably.
I was going to say I've talked about it before, but I'm not going to answer because that's not.
Okay.
There is a lesson plan template. I believe this is Erica's opinion, because lesson plans don't come to me, but I'm going to refer to a TA on this answer too. As long as you find a lesson plan online that has all of the components from the 21st century template, then you should be fine. That is my thought. We got Ellen and Angela on here. If y'all want to unmute and speak to that, then that'd be great. I'm gonna say what I said was good then. All right, go ahead, Janie.
Okay.
I'm
And
sorry. I'm
oh,
sorry, Janie. We have a couple of more questions. Where are the templates located, Erica?
they're on this website.
They should be on the 21st century website. Let me make sure of that.
I
And
think they
will
were the other day when
also-
I looked, I'm pretty sure. And I think they were sent out.
I was gonna say,
And new cohorts sent out in case they wanted to do field trips. They also got that template in that email.
Okay,
I'll
Janie.
make sure at the end of this week that I send the lesson plan templates out for the new cohorts, or at least show you where that information is on the website.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the TA sent it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. There's another question that's to you. Do you have any samples of teacher prepared lesson plans?
I do, and I will, in the next few days, because I don't want to lie to you guys, I have a lot going on. So by next week, what I will do, if it's okay with Annette and Erica, I will send it to them first, but I'll create like a Google Drive with some of these resources like lessons, you know, a quality, and they can look at it and give the final word and provide that for anyone who would like it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
All right, so additional tips. Involve your community partners, bring them in. It makes it easier for you. Health clinics, they will come in and teach about wellness and nutrition. You have your 4-H extension. They check a lot of boxes. You have just people in your community, retired teachers that want to come in and help. You have a lot of resources, utilize them. It's hard to do it on your own. So start forging relationships now if you're a new cohort, and reaching out to these community agencies and saying, hey, we have this and we really want to work with everyone. Because at the end of the day, the community, I believe, all has the same goal, which is to improve your community. And what better way to do that by pouring into the children? And that they will come in and do that. And so I encourage you to just forge relationships, and that will help to alleviate your own lesson planning, because they will come in and help provide some of those things for you. Volunteers, I put local resources, and then of course, those family nights, those are really important. They're important because they give your lessons for students. They give them a goal. They give them a driving force. Oh, I want to do this because my mom is going to come. You know, I want to make sure I'm engaged because my granddaddy's out of town and he's going to be here and he's going to come see, you know, me sing, or he's going to see what I built, or, you know, we're going to do a STEM competition together, and, you know, I want to be the best. So make sure that you're really involving them, because to me, it is all about building relationships. And when you build those relationships with the students and the families, then you are going to provide lessons for the students that are effective, because you know their needs and you know the needs of their family, because you've built this relationship with them. And so make sure that you're investing in your students, and then I believe that your lessons will be even more impactful. Next. All right, these, you know, the family night one is not on here, but this is just a teen science cafe thing that we did. And it's real quick, a minute. And I say all this to say, build on everything. Have a unit, have a focus. The high school did all this sports medicine stuff. They were doing it for World Games. We did the teen science cafes, and we brought in orthopedic people to do mock surgeries with high school. It was amazing. It was amazing. And it gave the kids, maybe they didn't want to come on the day they were doing the beginning lessons, but they knew they wanted to do the mock surgery. So they bought in. So you can just click on that if you want. Hopefully it'll play. And then we do an ROV club with our middle schoolers. And so this is just a quick video of them testing their things. We invited the parents to come in and watch them test. And then we had an event where they displayed it. And this one you might not want to play all the way. There's some video in here with them actually operating. Partnership with the YMCA. So we love our Y. You can see they're operating them in the office. Of course, there they built those machines. They did that in actual school. It took a long, long time. So kids had a reason to come. They was tested. It was work. They was like a strong board. I think this is when he finally gets it, and everybody in the pool was like, "Yeah!" As he picks up the rod. Yeah, there you go. Stop it there. Those are just some samples. I think I may have taken it out. I had this. Okay, so this is an elementary thing, fun, easy. And a good way to send it out to your families and to keep them involved, the ones who can't come and the ones who can. And if you did your phone right now, because I did it last night, you could do a QR code. And of course, you have to have permission. Let me say that. Make sure you have all your paperwork in order. Make sure that everyone has given you permission and photo releases and things of that nature. And you can click on that and you can see them doing their Christmas talent show. I mean, and it's all different kids. Some of them are awful, but honey, we told them they were amazing. They're not going to be a singer, but they think they are going to be. And so, yes, you got to do STEM and you got to do all of that. But, you know, there's a lot to learn in doing your talent shows. Kids are learning about the setup, right? Sound, beats. There are a lot of things that you're teaching kids, character ed, how to be a good participant, how to be a good audience, right? All of those things tie into the bullying component, right? Teaching kindness and things like that. So just be inventive, have fun, but plan ahead. Plan ahead. It takes a lot of work on the front end, but it makes things a lot easier on the back end because the state needs to see what is written into the grant. They need to know that you're compliant. Erica's, I could see you over there. And so I will field any questions that I can and that I have the ability to. And this is not anything that you, I think that's the last slide. I think there's a quote. Maybe. Oh, those are just some more pictures of fun things, building a lamp, things like that. You can click the next one. That's elementary there. This is an experiment with bubbles and mixing and science and, you know, things that we all do, but just I wanted to just show them for you guys. And then the last quote is, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. So we are each other's community. And we know that this is not always an easy job, but it's a really, really important one. It's a really, really important one. And I have been in after school, like I said, really for over 20 years. And I'm in that stage now where it's the kids of kids, that I've taught. And so you are difference makers, and those lessons are different makers for the students. So I would just encourage you not to get overwhelmed with the compliance part, although it is overwhelming. I get it. We have 9 sites. Y'all pray for me. I'm trying. But if you do things on the front end, then you're able to sit back and enjoy some of those things a little bit more. and your team is on one page, and you know that you're meeting what is required. So just be encouraged today. After school is exciting. I love it. Maybe I'm crazy, but I love it. I love all the crazy that comes with it. That's the late nights doing what I got to do and get turned in. I love it. And so if I can help you guys in any kind of way, please let me know, but just hang in there, plan. And hopefully some of the information I provided will help you to learn from my, I wouldn't say mistakes, but the long way. I took the long way sometimes, and hopefully this will help you to take the shortcut. My information is on the last slide, I think.
Oh, okay. Because that's what one of the questions is. What is your email?
And so it is jbrowning@gadsdencityschools.org. There's my cell phone number, and it may take me a day or two to respond. I'm trying to swim and not drown. Right. But that's really all I have. If anyone has any questions, I think I filled my time slot 1 minute early. So I hope that was helpful, and that you guys enjoyed it. And thank you, Erica, and you guys for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Janie. That was really informative. I really appreciate you going through and providing that information to everyone. I think you did a really wonderful job in including everything that the sites need in order to get started, if they haven't already done so. But I really appreciate it. And like I said, again, you did a fabulous job.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Anything I can do to help. We are in it together, guys. And it's just important that we all remember that we're a team, and together we can do it better. And I hope everyone signed up for the ACEA conference. This is my shameless plug. If you haven't, please do so. And of course, we're looking for any presenters. And I've had some people email, and I'm going to reach out to them. That's on my to-do list for Friday, because I have other items to do before that. But if you haven't got signed up, please do it, because what I'm really striving to do with the staff and the ACEA is to make it fun and enlightening and encouraging. And I think you have to come anyway. So so get signed up. Thank you, guys.
The details, Erica, on the conference, is there a way we can get that information out to them? There was a question. Can we get the details about the conference?
It is generally in my Friday email. I've gotten a lot of emails this morning from people that are saying they are not in my listserv. Look, y'all, I keep telling y'all at the bottom of my emails, and I know I try to send one email a week, and we're trying to be very concise with just me sending one email a week. So if you're not receiving my Friday emails, shoot me an email to let me know that you're not on my listserv so I can add you. And that way you'll be receiving my Friday emails, and I've been sending ACEA registration links weekly lately. So
it's on a flyer. So you got to click on the flyer, guys.
Click the flyer.
The registration links are at the bottom. So to do the Google form and to also do the hotel. I know that we've sent those to the TAs as well. I think I did too. So I've tried, Erica pushed them out, and they're at the bottom. You just got to click on that flyer and then go all the way down to the flyer at the bottom and register.
And yes, Erica and Janie, we have the flyer and the call for presenters. So at least for my sites, and I'll get with Ellen and Paige as well, we can resend that out after the Zoom today, the flyer and the call for presenters.
Great. Thank you so much.
Anybody else has something to say? Did you say something, Linda Day?
Yeah, I was going to say, when you send Erica a request to be put on her email blast, and you're not getting my email blast, please copy me on that so I can add you, make sure that you're on my blast list as well. Thank you.
This goes back to that conversation we had yesterday about updating our Easy report with correct email addresses, so then we can know exactly where to go. Because y'all, it's hard to keep up with all the moving pieces of all the 21st century cohorts, but we want to, and we want to know you. So yes, make sure that you're sending it to the TPI team, and we will dish it out. We're trying to create an email list to send to everybody, but we're all kind of sharing, trying to make sure that everybody's email address is correct. So
And,
thank you, Janie. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
Another-
Thank you
yeah.
guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Another thing that I noticed is that when looking in easy reports, and I'm trying to get in touch with someone pretty quickly, a lot of the grant administrators' phone numbers are not in there. So check your own contact information and make sure that that your preferred phone number is in there. So that if I'm looking at something and I have a question and I don't want to play email tag with you, I can call you by, give you a telephone call. Thank you so much. Oh, and that was an awesome, awesome presentation on lesson plans. It was step by step. It was terrific.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
So our next thing that we're going to do on our agenda is we're going to watch a video from last year's conference. And then if we have time, we'll do some Y for Y, but we probably are gonna make it right to 11:30, and I'm gonna let y'all out at 11:30. So let me share my screen. So everyone can feel like Annette is here with us today. I'm sharing my sound. All right.
Try that again. Good morning. Good morning. Hopefully you all were able to get some breakfast, some juice, some caffeine. I don't think you're going to need the caffeine with all the exciting things we have planned for you. My name is Annette Scoggin, and I'm the director of the 21st Century Program, and just want to welcome you all. It's the first time I've seen a lot of you in person, but I've seen a lot of you on Zooms. But let's give all of us a round of applause to say we are here and we are excited to be in person. A couple of things just to let you know, if the seat next to you is taken, if you will just push the chair up kind of like these right here, that'll help everybody find a seat. The Wi-Fi password is located on the screen. Hopefully it works well for you. The restrooms are out to your right, as is our registration booth if you need anything. If you'll check your cell phones at this time and just make sure they're on silent or vibrate, that'll be very respectful of our exciting speaker we have for you. Now, next, the PPE on the table. We're going to leave that here until the last day, and then we'll decide who gets it. But this right here, unless you have your own hand washing station set up here, is not really something you can use unless you go to the restroom or to your hotel room with it. Just to let you know, it is not a hand sanitizer. It actually is hand wash. Okay? Raise your hand if you've already tried it out. I did it too. It's all right. It's all right. Hey, we've got all of it covered. So first, I want to tell you just a few things about where we are with our team and what we want to do. The number one thing we're here to do is to serve you and find solutions so we can better serve kids and serve the teachers and the people working within the programs. We are not just compliance, even though you probably like every time I talk to you or email, it's something about compliance. We feel the same way. But our goal is to get to the next level to let you know we are here to serve you. We are here to find solutions. If you think, I know Camille's going to present later on an expenditure report, you'd like to get X, but oh, that's probably not allowable or whatever it may be, call and ask. We want to find solutions. We want to look at ways we can make things happen as opposed to just say, nope, that won't work, nope, that won't work. Let's work together to better serve the kids. Now I'd like to introduce you to our exciting team. And scoot up just a little bit. Y'all get in the limelight. As you know, we have our TAs. Do we have everybody up here? Miss Phyllis, wave. Everybody give her a round of applause. Miss Donna. And definitely not last, but not least, not last, Miss Sherry. We also have 2 volunteers that are onboarding in the future. Miss Pam, they're actually working the registration booth right now, but you're going to get to meet 2 more people. Once again, our goal is to serve you, and along with Miss Ellen. So hopefully we'll have even more people to serve you. But let's give this team a round of applause. Then moving into our office, actually who runs the office and who does a dynamic job, I'd like to introduce you to Miss Ellis. She's the backbone of the department and does a great job. If you ever receive an email from her, please make sure you read it and pay attention to it. Not that you wouldn't, but if she's sending out an email, it's really, really important. Then we have the famous Camille Anderson. A new team member we have, Miss Jennifer Connell. And then we saved the best for last in this one, and let's give a big round of applause to Yolanda. She has a big bike race this weekend, so wish her luck. And don't offer any chocolate to her. She needs to keep her body well done. And then we have our boss. She is happy to be here with us. She's excited about the picture we put up, as you can tell. But she's dynamic too, and her goal, once again, is the same as ours, is we're here to serve you, we're here to work for you, we're here to do whatever we can for the kids of this state. So at this time, I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Killingsworth.
Good morning. It is great to be here at the conference. I don't know about you guys, but it was just about time for me to get away from Montgomery and go somewhere, so I was very glad to come down here. Not exactly fun in the sun, but it'll do. It will do for sure. Our team has worked really hard to prepare this conference to make sure it's what you guys need, what you guys have asked for. They looked at the survey that you guys did and submitted a lot of different suggestions, how you wanted things to look. Some things in the past that looked really good, you wanted to make sure we kept those, and then also add a little new flavor to that. So hopefully you'll be able to see the fruits of their labor. During these few days, if there's anything we can do to help you guys, feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we'll do whatever we can to make sure your stay here is as enjoyable as possible and that you enjoy the conference. So I want to make sure that I say, on behalf of Dr. Eric Mackey, our state superintendent, the past couple years have really been trying for all of us in education. The pandemic has really changed our lives. Just about every aspect has been impacted, especially in education. You know, when schools dismissed in March of 2020, we weren't sure how long we were going to be out for, what it was going to look like when we got back. We didn't know how we were going to serve the students of Alabama. However, we knew the students still needed our help. We knew, particularly our vulnerable populations, the ones that we work with, they needed our support. They still needed our support. And we've heard so many stories from LEAs, different organizations in the community about how you guys have rallied the troops, gotten together, figured out another way to still support the students, although we couldn't all be there together at one time as we're used to. So from Dr. Mackey, State Superintendent of Education, thank you to each and every one of you for what you've done. Please know that we're here to help you. We're here to support you in whatever way we can. And so now I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker for today. Dr. Dickey, we are so happy to have you here today with us. Dr. Dickey is a nationally recognized educator. He is a professional author. He's an expert in the areas of curriculum, instruction, educational administration, and probably a lot others that I'm not aware of. While in the K-12 system, he has produced a track record, a strong track record of school improvement and increasing student achievement. And so he spends a lot of his time going around the country to any and everybody who needs assistance to help them to help them as far as moving their schools, moving their districts, moving their states towards improved achievement. We're so glad to have you here with us. If you attended Mega Conference and you heard him, you already know that you're in for a treat. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Danielle Dickey.
Thank you, Dr. Molly. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all. Whenever I get the opportunity to work with folks who are closest to the work of serving children, I call that a good day, all right? And so it's only fair that I warn you about my presentation style. Y'all, I'm gonna start out Methodist, but I'm gonna end up Pentecostal. Are y'all ready? Y'all ready? Okay, all right. And so I see y'all on the front row. Y'all gonna get baptism by fire, all right? Okay, here we go. So what is it that we're trying to do in service to children in our respective roles in the organization? And if I were to poll you, we would probably individually say and collectively say, we're trying to make sure that children have equitable access to instructional experiences that are worthy of consumption, so that whatever is being produced for children to consume, that is fully worthy of consumption. And so north, south, east, west, urban, suburban, rural, that's what I do every day from city to city, state to state, sometimes 3 or 4 cities in one day, trying to make sure that children have unfettered access to instruction of the highest quality. That's my service to humanity, all right? And I take that very seriously. Because while education does not guarantee outcomes, it certainly does provide access to opportunities. And so that's what this presentation is about today. So I asked this question across the country. What is it that children deserve to have access to? What is it that children deserve to have access? And what keeps them from being able to achieve at the highest levels? And all across the country I hear, well, only if parents are more involved. Well, guess what, y'all? Sometimes they're never gonna show up. And I was one of those kids for whom no one came. Back to school night, parent-teacher conference. In fact, my mom had adult issues by the time I was 12, and so I had to go live with my grandmother, who was more stable. And I slept on the floor of her living room because her bedrooms were occupied by her grown sons, and I could see the ground underneath the floor in the living room where I slept. But guess what I had? I had access to strong instruction, and now I'm standing in front of you with an undergraduate degree, a graduate degree, and a doctorate from a prestigious university. Our children have capacity. We've just got to make certain in our respective roles that we clear the runway for them. All right, so you've seen this RTI pyramid before, yes? And what does this RTI pyramid say? There's some dangerous assumptions inside of this RTI pyramid. The first one is that all the kids are coming through the door proficient for the most part. That is not true. And people are telling us to follow programs of study with fidelity without understanding the population we're serving. Okay, this RTI pyramid has another dangerous assumption inside of it, that about 10 to 12% of the population is coming through the door in need of some level of support, and everybody's worried about the kids who are on the bubble or that line right between the yellow and the red, so much so that the kids who are highly able and gifted, they're getting ignored. And so what does this red represent? This is the kid you asked to find the key details of find the main idea, the main idea of a paragraph, and they think it's the first sentence of the text. You ask those kids to find the key details, and you give them a highlighter, and they highlight everything. And so when your RTI pyramid is right side up in your district, right, or even for a population within your district, you can take a pull-out approach to improving student outcomes because only 20% of your students are in need of some level of support. But what if your RTI pyramid looks like that? Y'all, I feel Pentecostal. And if your RTI pyramid is upside down, then the vast majority of your population or a particular student group, I don't call them subgroup because that's demeaning. A particular student group or your entire population is in need of some level of support. The yellow represents the kids who are proficient, who could slide into the red if we're not careful, right? And the green at the bottom, that's your highly able and gifted that no one knows what to do with them because they're in the minority, right? And so when your RTI pyramid is inverted, then you cannot take a pull-out approach to improving student outcomes. You've got to take a push-in approach. And what do I mean by push in? Push in a small number of things that we all agree helps children. And what are those things? I'm going to show them to you today. And wherever I'm working, whether it be north, south, east, or west, folks who put these ideas into practice, that we see significant gains in student outcomes. And I have a white paper published by my partners at Scholastic to prove that to you. All right? Okay, so let's keep going. And I'll make sure you get that white paper. Okay, so let's talk about a few international shifts for teaching and learning. And wherever I see this, whether I'm in Canada or in Korea or in Finland and I'm doing professional development, wherever I see these shifts in place, I see children doing better academically. So in the ELA block, let's talk about the ELA block. In the ELA block, here's what children deserve to have access to, or here's to what children deserve to have access. They deserve to have access to a balance of informational and literary text. And there are folks who are allowing children to call informational text stories, which places them at a significant disadvantage. Because how you approach a piece of literature is not how you approach a piece of informational text as a reader. And the informational text that children should be able to have access to in our ELA block, they should look 6 ways. They should be historical, they should be scientific, they should be technical, they should cross eras, they should cross topics, and they should cross perspectives. What am I saying here? We all know that children from impoverished communities lack background knowledge. How do they get background knowledge if they don't have access to a variety of informational texts? And so it might be in the ELA block that they read a historical text so that when they get to social studies, they already have some background knowledge revolving around that historical figure, historical event, or historical idea. So the first time that they might read about the water cycle could be in the ELA classroom. So they could be reading about the water cycle in the ELA classroom, so when they get to the science classroom, they already have a head start because they didn't start at the same point as their peers who are more economically advantaged. Are y'all with me? So, well, how in the world would I use a historical or scientific or technical text in the ELA block? To teach main idea, to teach summarizing, to teach text features, to teach text structures, which are what? The literacy concepts that live inside of the Alabama standards. Okay, let's keep going. The literary text that children deserve, to which children deserve to have access. Y'all see I'm struggling not to end my sentence with a preposition, all right? Okay, the burdens of knowing better. Okay, all right. Now, the literary texts that children should see in our ELA block, they should be written by a variety of authors on a variety of, what? Genres of literature. And what are the 3 genres of literature? The big 3, plays, poems, stories. On the variety of traditions of literature, classical, traditional, mythological. On a variety of eras of literature. Y'all, there are 13 eras of literature. And don't all of our children deserve to have access to literature that's reflective of all of those eras? And on a variety of themes of literature. So how can you, from your position in support to children, ensure that children have equitable access to what you see on the screen? Okay? Now, let's talk about all content areas. It's going to get really exciting now. So, children deserve to have access to complex text. Now, what does that mean? Look, 60% of all children in this country do not read at the grade level expectation in 3rd grade. 60% of all 8th graders do not read at the grade level expectation. 60% of all 12th graders in this country do not read at the grade level expectation. And if those students are minority students, add 15% to that number. And if those students are grappling with a disability, add 30% to that number. So if you have a disability in this country, there's only a 5% chance you can read at the grade level expectation. If you are of minority descent, there's a 75% chance you are not reading at the grade level expectation. Y'all, that's a pandemic if I ever heard of one. So how do we resolve that? Children read at 2 levels. First level, independent. That's how they read with no support from anyone. Children also, well, adults, we do too. We read at an instructional level, which means what? That's how you're supposed to read because of how old you are. Sometimes there's a huge gap between independent and instructional. How do we close it? By giving kids access to what? What do you see on the screen? Complex text. Well, what are you saying, Doc? They don't read at the grade level expectation. You want me to give them access to increasingly complex text as the school year progresses? Yes, but how? How do you close the gap between their independent and instructional reading level? 2 ways. 2 ways. Here they are. Number 1, ask kids to look at the text and tell you if they see a word they can't pronounce. Which is fancy for what, y'all? Decoding. Which means I see letters on the page and I know what sounds to produce. And there are folks who are standing in front of other people's children who are not doing this for them. Y'all, these are other people's children, ma'am. I'm trying to preach. She said, preach. Y'all said, I'm trying. So if we're trying to give kids access to increasingly complex text as the school year progresses, someone has to stop the presses and say, tell me if you see a word in the first paragraph that you cannot pronounce. And let's deal with it right now. And if I deal with it for the 1, I'm dealing with it for the 21 who didn't raise their hands. Okay, here's the second thing we must do to give kids access to complex text so that we close the gap between their instructional and independent reading levels. And y'all know I'm the author of Scholastic Literacy, which is an international program designed to teach kids how to think, how to read, how to write, how to speak at the grade level expectation. It is to say to kids, scan the paragraph. Do you see a word that you don't know what it means? Because here's the formula for reading. Decoding plus creating meaning equals reading. Some kids have an issue with decoding. Some kids have an issue with knowing what words mean after they have decoded them. And God forbid, some children have an issue with both. So let's demystify what it takes to get our children to read. Do you see a word you can't pronounce? Do you see a word that you don't know what it means? And if we, for the 180 days, for the number of years that we have children under our instructional care, if we do that for them, we're going to close that gap. Okay, I'll keep going. There should be one way that we require children to go to the text to support their response to a question, because the psychometricians, the ones who write those assessments to judge educator effectiveness, they have one expectation, one operational definition for what it means to cite textual evidence. And do you know what they use? Page number, paragraph, line number. So when we require children to respond to a text-based question, let me tell you what the educators should require kids to do. Pinpoint the exact location of the information they're using to support their response to the question, page number, paragraph, line number. If they're reading a poem, stanza, line number. If they're reading a play, act, scene, line number. And if we do that, we hold children accountable for supporting their responses to a text-based question. Okay, any millennials in the room? You're 39 or younger. Would you raise your hand for me, please? Y'all look at them. Look at them. Look at them. They're young, y'all. They smell like milk. Look at them. Okay. Okay. All right. Just kidding. Just kidding. You smell great. Okay. So let me say something to you about millennials. Like, sometimes millennials, you know, y'all benefited from technology that us older folks, 40 and over, we didn't benefit from. So when we were little, 40 and over, the teacher would tell us you're going to write a paper. And millennials, we had to start at this place called the library. Millennial, that's a brick building in your neighborhood. Okay. And the teacher would say, you know, I don't want to know what you think on the topic. I want to know what other folks think on the topic. And so you had to go to this machine called a microfiche machine. And they're Googling it right now. What the hell is that? So it looked like an x-ray machine, y'all. You had to turn the dial on it. And when you turn the dial on it, the articles would fly in front of you like this. And if the person who scanned it in had an attitude and scanned it in sideways, you had to lean to see it. And the teacher would say, you know, I want you to get information from multiple sources. I want you to compose from multiple sources. And so you had different color index cards for every one of the sources so you wouldn't get them mixed up. And then you had a rubber band. You put that rubber band around your index cards. And yeah, okay, got it. Y'all remember, millennial, you have no idea what I'm saying. Okay. And then from the index cards, we created our own outline. And the outline had Roman numerals on it. And the teacher told you if you had an A underneath one of those Roman numerals, you had to have a B, all right? So, okay, yeah. And then from that outline, you wrote your first draft. And when you got your first draft back, it had the blood of 1,000 battles on it. Because somebody read it and marked it up with those curious-looking editing symbols. And then you rewrote it, and then you got a final grade for it. And now children have a hard time writing a sentence without a sentence starter. And a lot of that is because we have moved away from requiring even the littles to compose from what? Sources. So how do you compose from sources in your kinder? You read to kids big old books on frogs, multiple books on frogs, and then have them speak to you about frogs. How's that look in upper elementary? You read about the water cycle from more than one text, and then you write or speak about the water cycle. How's that look in high school? You read about the antecedents to the American Revolution from more than one source, and then you write or speak about the American Revolution. Let's go back to that. Okay, last one here. Deep conceptual understanding of academic language. What am I talking to you about? International shifts. Wherever I see these shifts in place, kids do better irrespective of race or socioeconomic status or exceptionality. So what is this? Deep conceptual understanding of academic language means that kids are sitting in our classrooms, we use words they do not understand, and they do not raise their hands and tell us they don't understand. So if kids are going to be analyzing U.S. seminal documents of historical and literary significance with a focus on themes, purposes, and rhetorical features, which is one of your state standards, what the heck does that mean to a child? So someone has to talk to them about what those terms mean before that lesson goes too far. Do you see this in your programming? Are you satisfied with the extent to which your program is reflected in these international shifts for teaching and learning? Okay, let me prove something to you. Let's go a little bit deeper with deep conceptual understanding of academic language. Okay, in your notes or on a piece of scratch paper, I want you to do me a favor. In a moment, answer this question for me first though. Where do you see these words? Where do children see these words? They're in the standards. They're in their instruction. They're in their assessments. So this is what I call the universal language of literacy. So I'm in the process of publishing a new book with Scholastic. It's called the Universal Language of Literacy. And what is this? These are the terms that cross grade levels and disciplines. And if kids don't know them, they'll test like they were never taught. Now, I'm not about the test, because if you give children access to instruction of the highest quality, the test will take care of itself. So do me a favor. In your notes, tell me what a summary is. What is a summary? Write down what you believe a summary is on a piece of scratch paper in your notes. And I need you to do it because I want to show you a low-hanging fruit, or a set of low-hanging fruit that we can resolve tomorrow in service to children. And congratulations to those of you who got a copy of my latest book. I know 50 of you got a copy of it. Could you hold it up? And if you don't have a copy of it, one is going to be mailed to you. Okay? All right. Compliments of Dr. Molly Killingsworth and her team. Okay, so what is a summary? Y'all write something for me, please. Okay. Let me give you the definition for summary, okay? And I want you to rub it up against what you've written, okay? A summary is a brief statement that contains the essential ideas of a longer passage. It's a brief statement that contains the essential ideas of a longer passage. That's not my definition. Y'all, that's the psychometrician's definition, which means what? In our teachers' thinking and the folks who are supporting teachers in our programming, they have to have this definition in their thinking. What did you write on your paper? I'll tell you what you wrote. And this is not an indictment. This is an opportunity for growth. Whatever you wrote, let me tell you something. I could go here, 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 here. Guess what I would find? They're all different. What you have written is all different. And so children under our instructional care, they go from one classroom to the next classroom, from one grade to the next grade, and the teacher with good intention gives them a different expectation for what it means to summarize, just like what's written on your paper. That doesn't mean the teacher is a bad person. That means they had not calibrated in service to children. And so we don't want our children to become instructionally schizophrenic, do we? And what is instructional schizophrenia? They hear voices. And whose voices do they hear? They hear voices of people who cared about them, but people who are not calibrated in service to them. So then what do you need in your programming? A resource that has, I'm going to skip past this one and this one, a resource that has in it the definitions that cross grade levels and content areas that children need to take with them when they leave that course and go to the next course, or when they leave that grade and go to the next grade. Are y'all with me? Now, I'm not saying you have to get this, but you've got to get something. Because we're telling kids that an inference is an educated guess, and then when they get to the assessment, that doesn't help them. An inference is a logical assumption that's based upon information from the text, plus one's prior knowledge and experience. You know, can I lean over to any third grader in your district through 12th grade and ask them what is point of view? You know what they should say to me? Well, sir, it depends on what kind of text you're reading. If you're reading informational text, point of view is opinion. But if you're reading literary text, point of view is the position of the narrator. First person, second person, third person limited, third person omniscient. What's a conclusion? It's a sophisticated inference. An inference needs one piece or limited information, but a conclusion needs multiple pieces of information plus one's prior knowledge and experience. Do our children have deep conceptual understanding of academic language? Do the people who are serving them have it? Do the resources we put in front of them ensure it? Okay, I'll take my seat in a minute. And I've also done the same thing for literary concepts, because terms like characterization and onomatopoeia and assonance, children deserve to have one operational definition to those really important terms. Okay? All right. Let's keep going. Okay, so let me talk to you about 4 instructional practices that I believe, I know for a fact, help to improve student outcomes. Okay, and here's number 1. And number 1 is quite controversial. Okay, put on your seatbelt. Writing the state standard on the board has never helped a child. Never. And I remember being a 3rd grade teacher and that principal scaring the bejesus out of me, telling me if I didn't have it on the board, I'd be in big trouble. And I put it on the board. And when I got observed, the kids would like band together and help me, right? They would say, "Sir, we're gonna be good today. And we're going to read this thing together." And they would read it out loud together in unison. Guess what? And not understand a single word that was in it. So what's better than forcing this state standard on the board? I'm not saying don't teach to the expectation of the state standard. I'm saying writing an anthology of a standard on the board is no use to children. So then what's better than that? A learning target that is 1 part content and that is 1 part higher order thinking. 1 part content and 1 part higher order thinking. And it is available to everyone who walks into the classroom. Because as a former principal, and y'all, you know, I always inherited the lowest performing secondary school as a principal. And after 1 year, we either broke the record in the state or we broke the record in the district. And we didn't do test prep. We moved away from writing the standard and we said to kids, what are we going to teach you? And now what are you going to do with it? So they understood the purpose for their learning. And we made it a really prominent location, put in a really prominent location in the classroom so that anyone who walked in knew what we were up to. And it wasn't about the lesson plan because we punished teachers with lesson plans. So, you know, I want you, and I would turn in my lesson plan and I would even turn it in on time, but it wasn't what I was doing. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Anarchy. Because I don't know, sometimes I didn't know what I was going to do until I was into it. So we got to move away from this whole thing like a daily lesson plan. We got to move toward what? Lesson progression, which means what? Pick up where you left off. Okay, I'm getting off track. I'm sorry. Okay. So I see 3 kinds of objectives on classroom boards in this country. The first kind is flawed, and it's nothing but an activity. Today we're going to do a KWL chart, malpractice. Today we're going to do worksheet number 7. Malpractice. You might as well put the whole state standard on the board. Okay, the second kind, content driven. It's good because it's connected to a state expectation, like to teach main idea in 3.5, to teach central idea in 6.12, right? To teach, classification of organisms in, elementary grades, right? But it doesn't say to children, what is it that you're going to do with your new content knowledge? So the Shangri-La, the Sistine Chapel of objectives, it is the performance-based objective because it says, I'm going to teach you this so you can do that. And when we make those connections for kids, they're going to be more engaged in the instruction because they know where we're going. Let me give you a couple of examples. We're going to start with ELA. Look at this one. Students will be able to, some people write, I can. I don't want to have that battle with you, okay? All right. And but what's the issue? What's the real issue here? What do you see in the objective first? Jigsaw. That is not content. That is an activity. Why is that on the board? So when kids go home and parents say, what'd you do? We did a jigsaw. I'm a genius. Instead, we should connect content to higher order thinking. Here's the content of ELA. We're going to teach kids to identify key details so they can turn around and do what? Determine the main idea of the text. Now, do you see any words in that objective that have to be taught to kids before that lesson goes too far? Call them out for me, please. Okay. Identify, start there. Don't make any assumptions. I hear you, key details. What else? Determine, what else? Yeah, and guess what? When we do it up front, we don't have to pay on the back end. You never build a house starting with the roof. You start with the foundation. Y'all, somebody tweet that. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, class, we're going to determine the central idea of the text. That's just content. I'm going to determine the central idea of the text according to the state of Alabama for a specific purpose so that I can turn around and summarize the text without including my personal opinions and judgments. Do you see any words in that objective that have to be taught to children before the lesson goes too far? I do. What are they? Determine. Central idea. Summarize. Distinct. Personal opinions. Judgments. Okay. Let's do it this way. You ever watch the evening news and there's always a roving reporter in the community and that roving reporter has a microphone and they always walk right past the person that could represent the community well through speech? And they walk right up on the person that embarrasses us all. And what do those people typically not have? Okay, I heard y'all saying teeth. I wasn't gonna say that. I wasn't going to say that. They typically don't have words. They typically don't have words. Y'all said teeth. I wasn't going to say that. And so how do we make sure that our children are picking up words? It starts with the learning target. I believe that people who made us write the state standard on the board all those years ago as teachers, that they were trying to do something good, but it became something bad. And what should it have been? It should have been the springboard to give kids access to what? Words. Okay, I'll keep going. So let's go to a different content area so I don't run out of time here. Let's go to social studies. Okay, class, we're going to be identifying the achievements of key historical figures. Good, but that's just content. In order to do what? In order to analyze the impact of their life on the United States, on life in the United States, the impact of their achievements on life in the United States. Do you see the words that have to be taught to kids before that lesson goes too far? I see them. So if you're trying to help children, please encourage people not to allow children to skip over words in the learning target that are unfamiliar to them. That's all I'm saying here. Okay? So let's keep going. So let's go to science. Okay, class, we're going to be distinguishing between plant and animal cells. That's good content, but let's make it performance-based so that we can turn around and do what? Classify organisms. When we make the connection between the content and the higher order thinking, we give instruction purpose, which means it promotes what? Engagement. Okay, let's go to another content area. Let's go to mathematics. Okay, so I was in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and I met this 6-year-old. After I did professional development in her building, I came back 4 weeks later to make sure that they had moved away from taking down the anthology of the state standard and moving toward putting up a learning target that's 1 part content and 1 part higher order thinking. And so I walked in and I said, sweetheart, what are you doing? And what you see on the screen at the bottom was on the board. It said students will be able to count by 1 to 10 in order to compose and decompose composite figures. So I leaned over and I said, what are you doing? And she looked at me and did not pause. She said, we're composing and decomposing composite figures. And she looked at me like, you didn't know that, dummy? And so I said, well, do me a favor, young lady. Can you tell me what compose means? And what she's, and I'm thinking maybe, they prepared her for me. But no, she was very confident. It had nothing to do with my visit. So I said, what does compose? She said, well, compose means to make. And when the teacher gives us a number between 1 and 10, we're supposed to grab that number of Lego blocks and compose a composite figure. So I said, well, let me ask you another question. I said, well, what is decompose? Since you know everything. So I'd already taught them on pages 31, 32, and 33 in my book, there are 30 prefixes, 30 root words, and 30 suffixes that our children deserve to understand. And when they understand them, you close the gap between their ability, their current ability, and the ability we need them to have so they can be competitive in the world. So she said to me, DE in front of decompose means away. So when the teacher tells us to decompose the composite figure, she wants us to pull the Lego blocks away from each other so we can do another number. My knees buckled. But really, they should have that capacity. do me a favor. This is unorthodox. This is unorthodox, but do me a favor. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds. Turn and talk to somebody next to you. What are you thinking about performance-based objectives and academic language since we started this conversation? Real quick debrief, go for it. What are you thinking? Okay, so allow me to call you back in 3. Allow me to call you back in 2. Allow me to call you back in 1. Okay, thank you. Calling you back. So watch this. Hey there, it's good to see you. So we started out saying that if we want kids to do well academically, we've got to push in a small number of practices into our service to children. And what's the first thing we can push in to that instructional ecosystem that is reflective of an inverted pyramid? A learning target that's one part content that came from the state expectation, and that's one part higher order thinking consistent with the state expectation. Followed by what? An opportunity for kids to develop conceptual understanding of the language that lives inside of the objective or the learning target. So you know what we did once and for all? How long have we had these state standards? About 10 or 11 years now? How long are we going to keep unpacking the same standards? So you know what I've done, what we've done at Educational Epiphany? We took the state standards and said, okay, here's the standard. And here's a paragraph or two. Here's what it actually means. So that when we go into the PLCs, or we go to the planning table to prepare for our academic programming, everyone who's responsible for serving children, they're on the same page as it comes to what that standard means we're supposed to do for children. And then what are the learning targets? We wrote every single one of them. And what kind of teacher notes and reminders do we need to have so that folks can teach the true expectation, the true nuanced expectation of the standard? So we have to stop telling kids that main ideas in the first sentence, because sometimes it's not stated at all. And we have to make sure that kids understand that topic is too broad to be the main idea, and key details are too narrow to be the main idea. Are y'all with me? Those kinds of reminders will put people on the same page. Because I don't think that teachers drive to school or drive to after-school programming with this in their head. You know, I can't wait to get to that school so I can underserve kids. Nobody's thinking that. And so they're underserving them because they do not have the knowledge necessary to serve them better. So then what do we have to do? Give them access to resources and training that closes their gap so we can close the gap that the children have. Okay. And here's what we've also done. Every term that lives inside of the standards, we've operationally defined them to make sure that everyone has the same definition of these terms that live inside of a particular grade level and cross grade levels and disciplines, okay? We've also written the graphic organizers, written the questions that we need to ask children relative to the ELA standards, and we've also pulled the text so that folks don't have to go on teachers page, teachers.com to look for stuff to teach to the expectation. Okay, all right. Now, let's go to instructional practice number 2. Now, what is instructional practice number 2? It is teach kids words. But what kinds of words? Y'all, this is going to be powerful. What kind of words do kids need to know? They need to understand general words, which are words that cross grade levels and disciplines, and they need to understand domain-specific words that live inside of a particular content area. Like onomatopoeia is a domain-specific word for ELA. Like fraction is a domain or content-specific word for mathematics, so forth and so on, okay? So then how do we make sure, without adding something to the teacher's plates who are serving kids, whether it be in school or in after-school programming, how do we integrate a focus on academic language without adding something, okay? All right, here we go. There are 7 strategies for teaching kids words. Number 1, annotate the objective, which we've already talked about, which is what? Every word that's in the objective, make sure kids understand them. All right? And then there are 6 other strategies I'm going to talk to you about today. Y'all ready? Let's do it. Okay. Point of view's annotation of the objective. So let's say kids walk into your academic programming, and this is on the board as the learning target for a few days. So class, we're going to be citing strong and thorough textual evidence in order to support an analysis of what the text says explicitly and inferences drawn from the text. That means nothing to the average kid. Which is why we don't want to replace one act of compliance, writing the state standard, with another act of compliance, writing the objective on the board. Instead, we want to go from compliance to commitment. All right? Who cares? Compliance is important, but use compliance to be committed to serving children based upon their needs. Okay, so what would I do for children who are in my classroom and this is my learning target? You know what I would do? I would ask them, hey class, do me a favor, call out for me the words that are a mystery to you. Or maybe they're not a mystery to you, Greg. They might be a mystery to one of your classmates. I need you to call it out so that I can make sure everyone understands every one of these words. So Greg, I'm going to start with you. Is there a word up there that could be a mystery to you and your 5th grade classmates? Evidence. Okay, good. Is there another one? Analysis. Is there another one? Inference. Is there another one? Explicitly. Is there another one? Thorough. The whole freaking thing. That is what our kids are up against, y'all. Okay, so then what am I going to do for children? I'm going to talk to them about every one of these terms. Thank you, class, for calling out those words that are a mystery to you. Now I'm going to be able to help you. Thanks for telling the truth. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to know. Knowledge is power. So let's talk about the first term. The first term is citation. Okay, 5th graders, have your parents ever gotten a ticket on their car? That's a citation. And well, let me tell you what's on that citation. Exactly where your parents parked their car, the location. So when I ask you to cite textual evidence, what am I asking you to do? Tell me the location of where the evidence is parked in the text. So when I say citation, what do you say? Location. Okay, let's move to the next word. Because people think, I don't have time to teach vocabulary. You're going to pay on the front end or you're going to pay on the back end. Okay, strong. Something that's strong is powerful. It does what it's supposed to do. It does not go forward and return void without having accomplished its purpose. It's powerful. And so when I ask you to cite strong textual evidence, I want the most powerful textual evidence you can find in response to my question. So when I say strong, what do you say, 5th graders? Powerful. Y'all stay with me. Okay, here's one. That word is not through, 5th graders. That word is thorough. Okay? And something that is thorough is done with great care and completeness. Sort of like my prom outfit in 1991. Y'all, I was thorough. My blue tie, my blue cummerbund, my blue socks. My girlfriend had a blue dress, and we had a blue rental car. We were complete. So when I ask you to cite thorough textual evidence, what I want you to do, completely answer the question. Do not ask me how many sentences I want you to write. Okay, let's keep going. Textual evidence, I see a suffix there, AL at the end of textual. So textual means what? AL means what? Of. So what does textual mean? Of the text. And what does evidence mean? It's proof. So what is textual evidence? Proof that came of the or from the text. Don't make that complicated, 5th graders. Now, support. What does support mean? It means to hold up. Now, what's holding up the chair that you're seated in today? It's not just grace and mercy. That chair has legs. So when I ask you to hold up your response to my question, what am I asking you to do? Go back to the text. Tell me exactly where you found it. Give me the most powerful evidence you can find. Okay, let's keep going. What is that word? Explicitly. I'm sorry. Analysis, excuse me. When you analyze something, you do not break it down. You actually break it apart. And when you break something apart and you put it back together, that's synthesis. Analysis and synthesis, they're the opposite of each other. So do me a favor. Hold out your left hand. We're going to analyze our left hands. Tell me the parts of it. Say it out loud for me, please. Fingers. How many fingers? Uh-oh. 4. And a thumb. That makes you human. Okay, keep going. Skin, all right, nails, yeah. Okay, good. Now, notice none of you said hand. Thank you. Because if you take off your ring, you still have a hand. Now, you might have less of a headache, but you're still going to have a hand. Okay, all right. Next one, explicit. EX in front of a word means what, y'all? It means out. Like exit means go out of it. So something that's explicitly stated is outwardly stated. And now the last word I need you to know is inference. We already talked about it. It's not an educated guess. It's actually a logical assumption. It's something you think is true, but you don't know if it's true. And it's based upon what you've experienced out there in the world and what you know. Okay, now watch this, y'all. Here's the most powerful part of what I've done. Watch what I put on the screen in red. Okay, class, we're going to be noting the location of powerful, complete words taken directly from the text to hold up the parts of what is stated and assumed. What just happened for children? Oh, I see you, friend. Yeah, what just happened for children? Light bulbs. And people will say, I don't have time for this, but this is what children need. If I go to the emergency room with a broken leg and you pull my 2 front teeth, I'm going to be upset. And children are coming to us with a broken leg and we're pulling their front teeth. So in a really prominent location in the classroom, we need to have this learning target that's filled with what? Power. What I mean this learning target is filled with power. It's filled with academic language to which they might be unfamiliar. So when I say sight, what do you think now? When I say strong, what should you be thinking as my students? Yeah, and so forth and so on. And not only will you remember it, your students will remember it as well. And this is our reasonable service to children. Y'all hear me? Let me repeat that. This is our reasonable service to children. Okay. This also applies to the other content areas, and so let me do this with the social studies objective. Same thing. Hey, kids, talk to me. Do you see any terms in that objective that are a mystery to you? Let's talk about each one of them. So I may talk about what it means to identify something, what achievements are, what it means for something to be important, and what makes an historical figure. What does analyze mean? Those words are going to keep coming up again and again. Notice you see analyze again here, because that's part of the universal language of literacy. It's going to keep coming up again and again and again. So then we say to kids, now, what are we going to be doing here? We're going to be recognizing and naming things done successfully by important people from the past so that we can pull apart the effect of their life on what makes the United States the United States. This is our reasonable service to children. Okay, so let me go here. What are we talking about? Instructional practice number 2, which is what? Teach kids words. How? By starting with the words in the learning target. Okay, what strikes you about the content on the screen now? What shocks you? I hear you, young lady. I'm shocked that some of these words should have been taught to children in kindergarten. Y'all see the word citation, number 6? Y'all, that's a kindergarten word. I think number 1 is analyze, yes? Or, argument. Number two, analyze. That's a kindergarten word. Which means what? Our instructional programming has to meet the expectation, because people say, well, no, these words are too complicated for kids. No, they aren't, because their slates are blank and we can fill them. I was in Madison, Wisconsin, and a group of educators told me kids could not handle the word key details, that the first graders couldn't handle it. So I said, well, bring me a group of kids. So they brought me a little rainbow coalition, one from every continent. They sat them in front of me. They sat them right in front of me, yeah. And so I said, hey, guys, I'm going to teach y'all a few things. And they were excited. They were like, are you the president? No. So I said, well, let's talk about what we know about key details. And one Latinx girl, she raised her hand, first grade, remember. And she said, well, I know what key details are. I said, tell me. And remember, there's somebody in the room that said they couldn't. So I said, tell me. She said, well, when I go home, I put the key in the door. You put the key in the door. Okay, so tell me more. She said, well, if the key unlocks the door, I think the key details unlock the main topic. And I looked right at the person that said they couldn't. Yes, they can. If we give them the opportunity and we're not in such a big hurry to get to the end of the curriculum guide. Because have you ever seen somebody speed up to a red light? You're not thinking, ooh, that's a genius. But then why do we ask teachers to speed up to the instructional red light? What's more important? Because America, look, America is getting to the end of its collective curriculum guide at the end of each school year, and 75% of all minority children can't read. So what's the worst that could happen if we slow down and have a conversation with children about academic language? I feel like y'all should clap on that one or something. So here's what I've done. I've taken all of the terms that cross grade levels and disciplines, and I created these digital cards that teachers can drop into their PowerPoints or they can display in their classrooms with the operational definition. And soon, I'm going to sit down in front of the camera and I'm going to talk about what all of these words mean. Because if kids don't know these words, they will have been taught by us, but when they get assessed, it will appear that they have not been taught by us. Okay? And so I put these cards in different formats. They're digital, as you see on the screen, but then they're also a set of handheld cards. When I was a little kid, I had a set of index cards with a hole punched in the side. Y'all remember that? And the teacher said, when I run out of lesson and I still have more time, you pull those cards out of your desk. And we flashed those cards with each other, and I knew those words that I needed to know. Whatever happened to that? I'm bringing it back. Thank you. Now, I've also
Okay, I said I was gonna let y'all out at 11:30. It's 11:30. If you want to see the rest of the video, it's on our YouTube page. If you just go to YouTube, it's at Alabama 21 CCLC, or you can go to our website, scroll all the way to the bottom. And on the right-hand side, you see all of our social media links. The first one with the little YouTube arrow looking thing is where our YouTube page is. Either one is going to lead you there. So if you have questions or comments, feel free to email me. I will forward those to Annette and everybody else in the State Department. We look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow. If you do not have the flyer that has the link for tomorrow's meeting, please go ahead and send me an email now. Don't send me an email in the morning because there's a lot going on to try to get y'all in the morning. So if you don't have that link, send me an email. If you're not on my email listserv on Fridays, send me an email. I will see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a good one.